Tonight, a Footy Show exclusive. The one and only Alan Langer talks about the Broncos, his brilliant season, and much more. We pay tribute to the Axe, Trevor Gilmeister, plus Canberra superstar Bradley Clyde, the Bears' Richard Champion, and a few surprises in Queensland's own Footy Show.
Footy Show takes you to the sideline. The Footy Show gets it right online. Our team is second to none.
Hello and welcome to the Footy Show. We got plenty to talk about, so let's get stuck into the panel and say g'day to them. First up, Gary Belcher, welcome.
Hello, Bomber. A few relatives in the audience tonight, obviously.
Red Nose Day, mate.
Yeah, before we get into the footy, if you're not already aware, it is Red Nose Day tomorrow, so get in, get yourself a nose, stick it on your nose, on your car, on your house, whatever you like, and support the SIDS Foundation.
Please welcome the scoop himself, Tony Durkin. Durko, some news from overseas?
Yes, Chris, we've had a...
Hang on, your nose is growing again, Durko.
Thank you, Brad. No, we've had some... I mean, everybody knows that Rugby League in Australia is in terrible strife at the moment, but my mail from England is that the competition is just about to finish over there, and the new Euro League was played in summer in England this year, and the top teams are pretty happy, but a lot of the other teams, particularly in second division, not happy with the Murdoch-style league over there, and my mail is that some of these teams are trying to forge an alliance with the Australian Rugby League. So all the strife that's been happening here looks like it could continue in England.
Oh, on your current form, Durko, looks like Euro League's pretty safe for a few years then, eh?
Thanks, Brad.
The third member of our panel tonight is Peter Jackson. Make him welcome. Now, Jacko, the Bulldogs, a good finish to the season, but not quite good enough. And they're barking at Belmore, the end of an era for Bar Lamb.
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot of players finishing their career, and we'll talk about those a little bit later on. But of course, Terry Lamb, the most first-grade games ever, and arguably, well, I think he's probably the greatest week-to-week football that Rugby League's ever seen. So it'll be a sad day for Terry, sad day for the Bulldogs, and sad day for Rugby League all over the place, Bomber.
But Jacko, is he definitely going to retire this time, Bar?
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, until Christmas or gets another offer.
Well, that's right. 450 grand, I'd go around for that too.
Let's say hello to our audience. BBC Hardware, give yourselves a wrap. And on that note, we have a couple of very special guests in the Royal Box over here. Please welcome them, Doug Urquhart and Yvette Stark. They won a Channel 9 Smith family promotion. They are both from Suncorp. Welcome tonight.
Thanks, Bomber.
G'day. That's enough, you can't say anymore.
Oh, have they got non-speaking roles?
Yes, they got non-speaking roles.
We'll ask them something.
We'll get back to Doug and Yvette during the show. Now, first up, let's get into some meaty rugby league. And Durko, the Crushers update. What is happening at South Queensland?
Well, nothing official again. As we said last week, the administrators are in Bomber at the moment, looking at the Crushers and seeing what they can do. But the information filtering through seems to be that things are a little brighter than at first thought. And the ARL, of course, came good last week with a package of $450,000 to make sure the players have at least got some money to tide them over. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that the ARL is going to come to the party again, and the Crushers will become solvent next year and will continue to play in the competition, but at a much, much reduced salary cap, as we talked about last week, and that means, of course, they will lose some players.
Is it a good sign that during the week a couple of individual sponsors have come through and given them incentives for this weekend?
Yeah, well, I suppose that is. A couple of businessmen in town have offered the players $1,000 each if they win, so that's $2,000 a head for the players if they win, and $1,000 for each try they scored. Some smart Alecs around town are saying that money's safe, but I wouldn't bet on that. I think the Crushers could spring a surprise on the weekend.
Even a bloke I know, Phil Naggs, has offered them a roof ventilator each if they win. But I guess if they don't get paid, some of them would rather roof over their heads, wouldn't they? It is a tough time for them.
You are a cruel man,
and the other tough thing that's happened is Bob Linder. We're not real sure about how safe his job is for next year. So I really feel sorry for Bob. It's been a tough couple of years for him. He's battled very hard, and hopefully he'll come through this okay.
And speaking of coaches, Chris Anderson has been a coach that's been in the news. He hasn't been too happy about the Broncos, and he's accusing them of having double standards when it comes to player retention.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, what Chris said, has some merit. But, I don't know. I think the problem that the ARL made and Rugby League made initially was that they tried to hamstring the strong clubs to prop up the weak clubs. And I just think that's a bad idea. I think, the strong clubs should be allowed to flourish. And, I can't blame the Broncos, Wayne Bennett or Shane Edwards, for doing their best for their club. They're signing up good players. I mean, that's what it's all about. I really can't, go along with Chris and criticise him for that. But, I mean, he might be privy to information that I'm not.
Yeah, well, obviously, from Chris Anderson's point of view, I mean, there was word around that Ben Walker, in fact, agreed to go to Canterbury and had reneged on that deal, or the Broncos had reneged on that deal. And there is still Canterbury claims that Anthony Mundine has a contract in a safe at the Canterbury Bankstown Club signed to go to their club. So I suppose Chris Anderson has some reason to be a little filthy. But, I mean, if you look at the Broncos, say 5'8" position, for instance, you've got Kevin Walters, Darren Lockyer, Ben Walker and Anthony Mundine coming here, and they're all class 5'8" that could play first grade at any other club. What you would have to ask yourself, why would the Broncos need to have 4 of them?
Well, because if a couple get injured, I mean, and they want their reserve grade to go well as well, Dirk. I mean, I just can't, see criticising people for doing their best is for me, it's promoting mediocrity, and I don't think that's what. But
I think Chris Anderson's point of view, particularly from Super League, I mean, if they wanted to be the best of the best,
there's no Super League at the moment, Dirk.
No, I know, but obviously they're thinking that they are, and all the people in Super League are talking that there's going to be Super League. You talk to any Super League official at a club, and they'll tell you, look you right in the eye and say there will be Super League next year. They're confident there will be. Well, and I think that's what Chris Anderson's getting at.
Well, if there is, I mean, and for the sake of Super League's competition, obviously, the better situation would be to have, some of the weaker clubs like the North Queenslands, the Western Reds and the Penriths boosted up by some of the Broncos players, but that's not going to happen.
Well,
obviously.
I tell you the other thing too, it is a 17-man game. You've got to get as many good players as you can.
Not for long, but I hear.
Well, let's see. But, Darren Lockyer, Anthony Mundine, these guys are utility players that can play in the centres, at fullback, at 5'8". So, I mean, you need 17 good players out there, and if you're going to compete with the best teams in the competition like Manly, like the Roosters, you've got to get a good club.
Yeah, but what about spreading the player talent around a little bit? There's no point in having Manly, Brisbane, Canberra and, say, Norths or whoever, really strong clubs, and then have the rest of them that because they don't have the player depth.
I understand that, Bomber, but
that in the end means there's no competition.
Do Brisbane look after themselves, spread some of their players around and come 3rd or 4th?
For the good of the game, maybe they have to for a couple of years.
Well, I'm sure that's not what they want to do.
I mean, the thing is to reduce the amount of clubs, so therefore the available talent is spread within the 12 clubs, and to give every club the same opportunity as the Broncos have got, as the Manly got, as far as access to corporate sponsorship, to crowds, and to the good players. I mean, that's the secret problem.
So the bottom line is we get rid of a few clubs. We start culling some clubs.
About 8.
I mean, we all agree with that. All agree with that.
I reckon. Get rid of about 8.
Jesus. You should be in charge of the Rugby League, Jacko.
I should be too.
Now, let's move along and have a look at the road to the finals. We have one round to go, round 22 of the Optus Cup. And let's have a look at the points table as it stands at the moment. There is the top 8. Manly on top on 34, Brisbane 32, Norths 30, Sydney City 29, Cronulla 28, Canberra 25, St George 25, Newcastle 23 make up the 8. And Durko, the bottom 4 teams now competing for the bottom places.
Well, there it is.
There it
is. There. Now West play Illawarra on Saturday afternoon. Now West to get into the semis must beat Illawarra, and Newcastle have to lose. Now for Newcastle to get in, they must beat Cronulla on Saturday night. If they beat Cronulla on Saturday night, their for and against will get them in Newcastle. So they must stand a pretty good chance of getting in. The Tigers, a tough scenario for them. They've got to beat the Roosters. They've got to hope that Auckland, Newcastle and West all lose. So, I mean, Wayne Pearce is going to have to get down on both knees and bless himself 100 times and have the Tigers play really well for the Tigers to make it. And Auckland, of course, well, they've got the biggest job of the lot, I reckon. They've got to beat Brisbane for a start and hope that West and Newcastle both lose. So on that, you'd have to think that Newcastle and West's would be the best chance, and my money are on Tommy's Maggies.
Well, they're at home, aren't they, I guess? And they're playing against Illawarra, who have struggled for most of the year until last week. They had a good win. But, I guess West looked pretty good from here.
Yeah, the other scale at the top end of that 8 is very important, with the teams jockeying for the top 4 positions.
Yeah, Cronulla did themselves a favour last week when they beat the Sydney City Roosters. Of course, if they beat Newcastle, and I think they will on Saturday night, very tough to beat down there, they could slot into 4th position. If Sydney City get beaten by the Tigers. Now, if the Tigers are a chance come Sunday, if those other sides have lost that Durko's just talked about, I think they could put up a good performance at home, of course, to Sydney City, and I think maybe that'll happen. I'm pretty sure Cronulla will win. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the Tigers, but it is a tough scenario for them to slot into the 8.
Now, also in round 22, we have a lot of players who've given loyal service to the game retiring this weekend. They will be playing their last game, so retire in peace to some of our stars of rugby league.
Yeah, well, John Cartwright's the first guy. He's retiring after a magnificent career with Penrith. Of course, he won that, they won a premiership in 1991, Kangaroo Tour in 1990, and one of the best one-arm passes around the corner.
And Gary Freeman, of course, he's played for about 4 clubs, Balmain, East, Penrith, and now, of course, Parramatta. He hangs them up, the Kiwi international.
Big Salvo there, scoring a try. Great player he has been, and a very good runner of the ball as a front rower or second rower. Here he is,
there he is, Big
over.
Salvo. Can't he drink a schooner too, just quietly?
Vital information from Peter Jackson.
And of course, here he is, the bloke that, I think I've probably never seen a player have an influence over a club that this bloke has, and as I said earlier, arguably the greatest week-to-week footballer we've ever seen.
That's Craig Coleman we're just seeing. 15 or 16 seasons at the top. Great organiser, never got his shorts dirty in one match.
Dan Staines, a Queensland warhorse, played for a number of clubs, of course, Cronulla, and finished off with the Tigers. He'll hang him up.
And that's Mick Potter for the Western Reds. He's finished up after a great career at St George. He actually won a grand final with Canterbury in the early days.
And of course, there he is, the man. He's on the show tonight, the Axe, Trevor Gilmister, the toughest footballer I ever played with or against, without any doubt.
Round 22 kicks off tomorrow night with Brisbane playing Auckland at Ericsson Stadium. Our telecast here on Channel 9 from 8:30 p.m. Let's have a look at the Auckland side, and Okasini comes in for Vaigana. And for Brisbane, there's a couple of changes. No Glenn Lazarus or Darren Smith. Both are out injured. Of course, Smith looks like he may be out for the rest of the season. And there's been a positional change at the back. Khan going to the wing and Robbie Ross going to fullback. Well, Brisbane travelled overnight to Auckland. Let's cross to the Centra Hotel and catch up with Kevie Walters and Alan Lang.
Hey, wake up, boys.
Hey.
You're on, fellas.
Hey, it's about time you got on. It's 2:30 in the morning over here.
Very good.
What'd you just get home?
From the nightclub, we're bugging.
Now, listen, you did have a delayed flight. It took a long, long time to get over there.
Well, it did, Bomber. We arrived here, I think, 5:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, so it was a bit of a sleepless night for most of the boys, but we've had a bit of a kip today and looking forward to tomorrow night's game. Should be great.
And what's the weather like? I believe it's raining over there, Kev.
Well, it is raining. They've been raining here for the last 3 years, I think, so it's going to be difficult conditions tomorrow night, but I'm sure we can overcome that. We've played over here before and had a good win, so there's no reason why we can't do that again.
The rain will mess up your hair, Kevie.
Well, actually, we're a bit late to come down here. Alf and I spent an hour in the showers doing our hair, and
What you get?
there's not a real,
What, you
not a
doing
real
each
good
other's
result, is
hair?
it?
Hey, you might have to get a woolen rug while we're over here.
Hey, Alf, I read something in the paper that Greg Alexander is pleading for public support over there. Apparently it's been a bit ordinary this year because of all the drama that's been going on and because the All Blacks have been so successful. How's the reaction from the locals been there today?
Well, we've been sleeping all day since we got in late. We've had our woolen blanket on, so...
Mostly all the locals can say is, bah, bah.
But no, you'd have to expect with Auckland so close to getting in the finals, a win will almost certainly put them in the 8. You'd expect there'd be a lot of public support at the match tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, that's right. They're expecting a big crowd, but I think with this weather, I think it'll keep some of the crowd away.
Alf, this Brisbane side at the moment, there's been a lot of talk about how you've probably been coasting over the last few weeks, winning but maybe not playing that well. How do you rate this Brisbane side to the side that won the premiership in 92 and 93?
Yeah, I think 92 season, a lot of the other sides have caught up in 96, but I still think the Broncos are a lot stronger. The forwards are a lot stronger with the younger enthusiasm coming into it with Brad Thorne and Shane Webke, and the enthusiasm in the backs with Darren Lockyer. So I think the side's a lot stronger, and once we get to the finals next week, I think you'll see a better Broncos side. Yeah,
in recent weeks, Alf, you've been struggling a little bit, the Broncos, but apparently last weekend in the second half against the Gold Coast, you hit your straps. How important is this game against Auckland? Obviously, you'd like to win it, but how important is it to go into the semi-finals with some good form under your belt?
Well, we've got to use this game as a stepping stone, I think, Jacko. Our defence has got to really pick up, tighten up, because the finals are won on defence, and if the Broncos are to win through to the finals, our defence has really got to show through tomorrow night.
Kevie, a bit tough for your forwards. They weren't that good last week, and now Lazo's out as well. But there's a surprise change at the back. Willie Kahn played, I thought, his best game of the year at fullback, and yet he's been slotted into the centres for Robbie Ross. Were you surprised by that move?
Well, not really. Willie's played in the centre position for us before in final series and done a very good job for us. So I think that obviously come into contention in Wayne's mind. And as far as the forwards go, the young blokes, Thorny and Webby and Greeny, of course, will be playing tomorrow night. They're full of enthusiasm and looking forward to tomorrow night's game. Of course, Auckland have got an enormous forward pack, and it's a big challenge for them young guys, but if they can overcome that, it'll put us in good stead for next week against North, hopefully.
Kevie, it looks like you and I may have thrown the cat among the pigeons yesterday with our story in Rugby League Week about you saying you'd like to go to the Cowboys if released by the Broncos. Wayne Bennett has come out today and said under no circumstances will Kevin Walters be released from the remaining 2 years of his contract. Has Wayne expressed...
I've got to come clean, Dirk. I had nothing to do with that article. It was all something off your own bat.
Thanks, Kevin. I knew I could rely on you, Kevin. What a great
You never rang me once about that, Dirk.
Solid. Now, listen, Alfie, I know you can't see these pictures, but it's a rarity for you to come up on the Footy Show. I think we can count it on the number of fingers on my hand here at the moment, the times that you've appeared on our show. And we wanted to show a couple of the lighter moments from Alan Langer's career over the last few years. You as a conductor for Sony Music when you re-signed and got the captaincy for the Broncos.
There's a shot here with you and a couple of your aunties.
It was real funny, Jack, that one. God, you can dig up some funny things, you boys.
The Alan Langer aftershave commercials, yes. And now Alan Langer playing tennis against Pete Sampras. And by golly, did you give him a lesson on the finer art?
Is he one of the better ones,
Frontal Law, the Footy Show.
Now, we're just showing your relationship with Dave Manson. You stole the scrum feed and had a bit of a laugh and a joke with him. I guess you'd like to get on well with the refs in the finals.
And here you are punching Robert Campbell before you scored that sensational try last Sunday. Great pass, Kevie, off the ground. And look at those little legs. Wayne Bennett said you look like Popeye. Alfie?
Who scored the most tries this year?
Look like olive oil.
Who's winning the bet about the leading try scorer between you two?
Well, I got 2 up last week, so we're even at the moment, so it all comes down to the next few weeks.
We can't let
And
you off.
Alf's, of course, he's got a very good track record in the final series, so hopefully tomorrow night I might get one and sneak ahead, but it's going to be difficult to hold him out from here, I think.
Kevie, good to see you got your final series haircut happening. We can't let you off lightly. We have some footage of your haircuts this year, and what an amazing range we've had.
The Caesar look.
The Oasis look.
The Oasis look.
The Laurie Daly look with the flicked back hair there, Kevie. That was a good one.
You got the Demi Moore look of him?
The short back and
Some good stuff
soft.
in there, isn't there? For a grand
what about
package of $5.
Put a bit of weight on me.
This
We've
one
just had
no
a shot
teeth.
with no teeth, Kevie, so you look very
And
good.
that, is that a new shirt you've got on there, Alf? Is that one of the new Broncos shirts?
Yes, it is. It's one of the Alan Langer clothing range for Ansett, so if anyone out there in the corporate world would love some shirts or anything like that, ring David Pye, 018156049.
wind him
Or his
up.
work number 33751590.
What if you haven't got a mobile
David Pye,
phone?
that is. Alan Langer clothing.
Well, if you can't get hold of Pisey, or you just ring through Optus World Toowong.
Get him off.
Thank you very much, fellas. Good luck tomorrow night.
See ya, full frontal.
There they are, Kevie and Alfie. Now, Doug and Yvette are enjoying proceedings on the Footy Show in the Royal Box. There they are, Doug and Yvette. And between them is... Come on, let's get the shot. There they are, Doug and Yvette enjoying the Footy Show
Don't say
in the
anything,
Royal
Doug.
Box.
Broncos to win, Doug, tomorrow.
Yeah,
you bet, mate.
Tomorrow.
Hey, it's enough.
That's it.
Now, we've got a Carlton 303 Ice Gold Players of the Week. You could win this portrait of Norm Provan and Arthur Summons. That's the one there.
Play A, Wendell Saylor.
To help him as well. Just took some pressure off the chasers, and Ross now the big dummy and chase. Saylor's on his outside.
Here it goes, Wendell Saylor. Where are the chasers? It's a game chase being led by Des Clark, but Wendell Saylor could win the Melbourne Cup from there. He canters over.
Play B, Alan Langer.
Stayed with him easy, in fact, made Ross come inside with that little bit of a break. The chip through now from Lockyer.
Or Kevin Walters, well, he's onside. It's up to Langer. Langer steps. Here he goes for a corner. Alan Langer, he gets there. Oh, that is a try. Alan Langer, you'll want to watch that one back.
Play C, Steve Renoff.
Langer for Kevin Walters. Kevin Walters with Ryan on his outside. Picks out Renoff. And he goes straight over Steve Renoff. That's try 101 for Steve Renoff.
Play D, Wendell Saylor.
Here's the kick over the top. It's a little deep. Willie Kahn, safe as always today. And straight away puts it into top gear. Willie Kahn around the outside to Saylor. Saylor over the 40-metre line. Watch the big man stretch out. Oh, that's great play from Wendell Saylor. He sized them up. He found that top gear and he canters over again the final 20. Great try to Wendell Saylor.
Cast your vote now. For Play A, 005560 For Play B, 60282. For Play C, 60283. And for Play D, 60284.
Now, towards the end of the show, we'll announce the most voted player of the week and select a home viewer to win the portrait of Norm Provan and Arthur Summons. It's called The Gladiators. It's valued at $395. Comes to us from Legends, Genuine Memorabilia, and their number is 1800 635 365. We're going to take a break on the Footy Show. When we come back, Brad Clyde and Trevor Gilmeister. Years back.
When we won the grand final in 1985 playing for South up here in Brisbane, Badge actually told me he loved me after the game.
Sammy, just a quick